We were trying to finish up on the verse, but there was a comment or question about the 10 horns there. So let's read Revelation 17:3 again, and we'll jump into that.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Okay, where else have we seen this beast of 7 heads and 10 horns? Okay, so in Revelation 13 we see this beast. There's not 21 different empires, okay? It's all the same entity, but shown at different times, okay? So let's go back to Revelation chapter 12. Notice how another sign appears in heaven. What is this sign that appears in heaven? Revelation 12 verse 3.
Behold, a great fiery dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his heads.
Okay, so in Revelation chapter 12 verse 3, we see the same beast, this entity, about the same time that this child is being born. Who's the child that's being born?
Jesus.
Okay, how do we know? Because of verse 5?
Yeah.
What's verse 5 say?
She bore a male child who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to his throne.
So we're talking about Christ here, right? And so we see this entity existing at this point in time. It looks a little different. I noticed we could do a study on the differences between these, but notice it gives us the timing. So we're talking about around the time of Christ. We have this entity here in verse 3 of 7 heads and 10 horns. And then Scott mentioned Revelation chapter 13, and I think we see the same entity, a beast rising up out of the seas, having 7 heads and 10 horns. But in Revelation chapter 13, I think we now are in a different time period. We're the time period of Revelation chapter 13, verse 5. What's that time period?
42 months.
Yeah. So this is the 1260-year time period, right? The 42 months. Time times and a half a time. Also, if you see 1260 days. So when you look at Revelation chapter 12, verse 6, Revelation chapter 12, verse 14, Revelation chapter 13 and verse 5, it's all talking about the same time frame, the same time prophecy. And this time prophecy starts in what year?
538.
538, right? It ends in what year?
1798.
Yeah, we can do the math, right? And so, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, we have this entity, as it looks like, the characteristics of it prior to the 1260-year time period the Bible gives us. Then Revelation chapter 13, we have this entity during the 1260-year time period. And then Revelation chapter 17, we have this entity after the 1260-year time period. So after 1798. Notice what it says, Revelation chapter 17, we read in verse 1, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot. When did the judgment start?
1844.
1844. So we know that this is after 1844, right? That this takes place. And so we have the same entity given to us 3 different time periods, right? Wanda, what do you think? You had a question?
No.
Okay. You had a comment?
Lots, but not pertinent to this.
Okay. Okay. Beatrice had a question or a comment, and she told you, and you were going to say, is that right? Okay. I guess not.
I'm
Okay.
trying to
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions about this? We had the same entity given to us, described a little bit differently, but 3 different time periods. Scott?
So how do we understand if, last Sabbath we talked about the first 5, and how do we understand those to apply to these time periods if some of them didn't exist during those time periods?
Well, I think a majority of them did exist in each one of these time periods. Let's see. last time we talked about, it's almost like we're jumping ahead to Revelation chapter 17, and notice what it says there in verse 9 and 10. Here is the mind which has wisdom, the 7 heads or 7 mountains of which the woman sits. So it gives us a geographical indicator of what entity we're talking about here. There are also 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. Okay? So let's look at that in order to understand the 10 horn given to us here in Revelation chapter 17. I think we have to have an understanding of the heads. So, when you look at Bible prophecy, apocalyptic prophecy, you look at Revelation chapter 13, and when we read about this beast here, the sea beast in Revelation chapter 13, what animals does it look like?
Oh, goodness.
What's it say?
When the composite beast of Daniel 7.
Yeah, it's got the leopard, bear, lion, right? And so it's like God is telling us, go back to Daniel chapter 7 to understand what this beast is, right? I mean, can you all see that? It's in Revelation chapter 13. Notice what it says. Now the beast which I saw, this is verse 2, was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power. So the devil's behind this. The dragon's the devil, Revelation 12:9. But these different beasts. So we go back to Daniel chapter 7, and I cannot interpret these heads outside of what the Bible tells me to do, right? To me, it's clear, it's saying in Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, go back to Daniel chapter 7. Right? Would you all agree? And so in Daniel chapter 7, we got the first head. We put these on the board last time. We'll do it again. First head is the first beast in Daniel 7, which is what nation?
Lion of Babylon.
So we got Babylon, right? The ancient. Now what are the dates?
605 to
605 to,
539.
Woo, I almost hit my head on the board here. Okay. All right. So all we're doing is we're following Daniel chapter 7. Who's the second head? Okay. Medes and Persians, and it just became the Persian Empire. The Bible predicted that one would rise up over the other. So if we start in 539, because they conquered the Babylonians in 539,
531.
October
331.
331. So we know it's 539 BC because the Medes and the Persians conquered Babylon in October of 539, right? They took the city itself. And so Sister Wanda says it's 331 BC. How do we know that date?
From the battle.
Okay, who's battling?
Darius and Alexander.
So Alexander the Great and Darius the Third. So we're given the third head in Daniel chapter 7. We know it's Greece. And of course, we have the famous battles here between Alexander the Great, because it specifically talks about him in Daniel chapter 8, doesn't it? And then we have the 3 battles, right? The 3 famous battles between the Greeks and the Persians that ultimately ended the Persian Empire, right? What were the 3 battles?
Isis. Gargoth something. There's an easier word to say it.
Right?
And then the first one was Gargantus. Or
Granicus,
Granicus.
right? And then the Battle of Issus. And then the last one is Gaugamela, or we say Battle of Marbella, right? It's probably a better way to say it for us. So that's why we have 331 BC there. We're not just arbitrarily selecting these dates. We're looking at when do these take over. So what I see is, Greece conquers the Persians had conquered Babylon, okay? That's why we have these beasts of prey given to us in Daniel chapter 7.
So, Pastor, they had 2 unsuccessful battles, and then the third one is Arbella and
No, the Greeks defeated them all 3 times.
all 3 of them. But
Right.
the last battle was the determining.
Right.
And that was in 331.
Right. That's exactly right. Then ultimately, Alexander the Great went all the way to India, and they're like, well, we're kind of tired of fighting, right? So they go back to Babylon, the city of Babylon. They conquered it, right? And that's where he dies. He's a young man, 323 BC.
31.
He was pretty young, right? He didn't have a son at that point in time. Now his
Wife was
he did,
pregnant.
yeah, his wife was pregnant, and eventually that boy was killed, and the generals took over. That's why it has 4 heads in Daniel chapter 7. What was the general's name?
Oh, boy.
Daniel chapter 7, 4 heads of a leopard. What is it?
Cassandra, West Timothy's
Yeah.
colony.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, those are the 4, right?
Right.
Okay, you got them?
I didn't hear it.
Okay. You didn't hear it, Scott.
Cassandra, Ptolemy, what is that? Seleucus.
Seleucus.
and West Seleucus.
Exactly. Those 4, right? I had that in the sermon just a couple of Sabbaths ago. Remember that? I said, this one did the north, this one did the south,
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. What happened in 168 BC?
That was a battle of Iscus or
Yeah, the Greeks are battling the Romans now, right? And the Romans win this battle. What battle is it called?
spell it. Ipicus.
I-T.
I.
That's how you spell it. Did you say spell it?
Mm-hmm.
I-T. Okay, that's my corny joke. Nobody laughed. What's it? Billy, help me out of here. Somebody says spell it, I say I-T. No, okay, anyway.
How do you pronounce it?
Pydna.
Pydna.
Yeah, Pydna. That's the Battle of Pydna took place here in the Romans and the Greeks, right?
Is that a location?
Yeah. So we have now the 4th head of Daniel chapter 7, which is the 4th head of this beast we're looking at here, right? Now, didn't all these heads, didn't they appear and go away in a sense, even in Revelation chapter 12, right? We haven't reached Jesus' time yet. So now we have Rome. This is the Roman Empire.
Pagan.
Can I say pagan Rome? I mean, both of them have pagan aspects, but 168 BC to what?
470.
476 AD. So it's a really long period of time. Then the Germanic tribes, they kind of fell apart from the inside. Morality was high, taxes were high, the rich got richer, and the middle class disappeared, and basically the empire fell apart into 10 nations, right? 476 AD, we have that taking place with Western Rome basically falling apart into 10 nations, okay? And that's what Daniel 7 talks about. 3 of them were uprooted because they opposed the papacy. And so we have the next head. What's the 5th head?
Little horn.
It's the little horn. Yeah, papacy during the Middle Ages, right? And so, whenever, I guess we could say, this, we have Revelation chapter 12, right? Then this pops up, this is Revelation chapter 13. And now we're in Revelation chapter 17, right? Revelation chapter 11 talks about the 6th head coming to power. Who's the 6th head?
France.
Okay, we could say
Napoleon.
France, but really it was
Napoleon.
atheism. And when you take atheism and socialism and put them together, what do you get? Communism, right? Communism. Did I spell that right? Okay. So we got the papacy was 538 to 1798. Then you had the French Revolution taking place, just prior to 1798. So we had communism is what brought down essentially this the papacy, right? Because you had Berthier, the French general, goes, captures the Pope. So we have this idea of communism. Starting, we say, I can say 1798, because what did Karl Marx and the communists do? They studied the French Revolution and put together this ideology from the French Revolution. Okay, that was really the beginning point of communism here in 1798. All right, so what head is opposed to communism?
It's the United States. Is this?
And this is, we see this in Revelation chapter 13, right? Exactly. Verse 11, we have the United States. And what's interesting about this is, when you read verse 10, it says that this country, which was going to become a world power, came up around the time that the Pope was taken captive. So what country in this world came up around the time of 1798 and becomes a world power, a world economic power?
That's us.
It's not like you have 5 to choose from, right? It's really pretty clear, isn't it? And so we have the United States, and what is, if you notice, it says about the 8th head in Revelation chapter 17, it says, there, 5 have fallen. Okay, so at this point in time in the vision, these 5 had fallen. Okay, so I hate to mark it out, but essentially what we're saying is these 5 have fallen.
And one
One is, right?
is.
And if you notice, it says that there's going to be a revival here, right? 5 have fallen, one is, and the other has not yet come. So we have, the United States was growing into a world empire. They hadn't actually made it yet, but I think what it's talking about is there's an 8th. And this 8th is papacy revived. And how do we know that? Well, what does it say in Revelation chapter 13? It says, I saw one of its heads as if it had been mortally wounded in verse 3, but it says his deadly wound was healed. When did the deadly wound take place? This is when it took place. Deadly wound took place in 1798 when Berthier captured the Pope, stripped the papacy of its political power. Tina.
So when he's saying all this, is he talking from his time?
No,
There's five
vision.
that have fallen?
Vision.
So,
It's the timing and the vision, not from his time.
okay,
Okay? It's the timing and the vision.
okay.
Whenever they're in vision and they're talking about the timing, right, it's what is being shown to them in the vision, not from his actual time frame.
So we're saying that it's just around that time there, 1798, from
Right.
what we gathered?
The time of the end started in 1798. When we studied that in Daniel, right?
What
And so-
year was that passed it? When Mussolini
Okay.
brought him back?
So in 929, we had the Vatican being established, right? Well, you can Google it,
Mussolini gave it.
right? It's called the Lateran Treaty. And what happened was the Italian government at that time was taken over by Mussolini, and Mussolini, had his own form of communism or dictatorship, and essentially signed the Concordat with the Catholic Church in agreement, which allowed the Catholic Church to establish their own country within the city of Rome, called the Vatican. You know, the Vatican is only 108.7 acres inside the city of Rome. It's its own country, right?
Yeah.
Did y'all, anybody Google the Lateran Treaty? Did I get the date right? Anybody do it? Somebody's good. Somebody shoot. I'm hearing some, some phones clicking away. This is the what? Did you get it?
Yeah, 1929.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? Lateran Treaty.
Yeah.
Does it give you a synopsis?
It says, Lateran Treaty was one component of the Lateran Pacts of 1929 agreements between Italy under Victor Emmanuel III and Benito Mussolini and the Holy See under Pope Pius XI to settle the long-standing Roman question. The treaty and associated pacts were named after the Lateran Palace, where they were signed on 11 February 1929. The Italian Parliament ratified them on 7 June 1929.
So here we have the Vatican as a country being established, and so the papacy is starting to get back its political power, starting in 1929. And ever since 1929, its political power over the nations of the world has increased, right? If you Google just images of the Pope meeting with different leaders of different nations, you'll see United States presidents, you'll see Russian Putin, you'll see different political leaders meeting with the Pope. Because now the Pope has gained this type of political influence back over the nations of the world in the time we live in. Whenever the Pope came and gave a message to a joint session of Congress here, what was it, 2015? Did that happen? Yeah. We are no longer a Protestant nation. We're allowing the Pope to come to speak to a joint session of Congress. And I looked at every single joint session of Congress and saw that not one joint session of Congress allowed a religious leader to come and speak to them, except for the Pope. So, just like Revelation chapter 13 said would happen, the United States and the revived papacy would work together to bring about the mark of the beast and end time events. And that's exactly what's happening before our very eyes. It's amazing to me how accurate the Bible is. Right?
Pastor, there was a different theory on those heads. They said, one theory is that the 7 were Egypt, Assyria.
Right,
Darius,
and you can't
Persia.
start with Egypt because the Bible told us to go back to Daniel chapter 7.
So that denies that. But this hasn't,
Right.
we don't know, this is a theory. This is not proven yet, right?
Okay. Right. And so I'm familiar with people starting it at different times, but you have to stay in the context of the Bible interpreting itself. Scott?
Since the Vatican is considered its own country, is the Pope considered like its president or king or something?
Right.
As well as the religious.
And the Pope is crowned as king. Right? He has a triple crown. Right? He is crowned as king.
That triple crown refers to the heaven, earth, and underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you look at older writings of the Catholic Church, they have made that statement. Lower regions, they say. Right. Brother? Okay. If you look in Revelation chapter 17, and I'm jumping ahead, it says, verse 10, there are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. When he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, in verse 11. Okay?
Oh, we came down, okay.
Right. And is of the 7 and is going to perdition. Okay, that's a huge clue. This
Yeah.
perdition. Okay? When you see the word perdition, you know it's talking about the papacy. How do I know that? Okay.
They
well,
invented it.
Look at this. Look in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. see, are we ready for this? I don't want to blow anybody away. It's pretty powerful. We okay? All right. Excellent. Now notice what it says. If you notice, 1 Thessalonians is the oldest copy of a letter that Paul wrote to the church of Thessalonica. It's the oldest letter from Paul that we have. Okay? And if you notice how he finishes the letter, he's dictating it, and somebody else is writing it. Okay? And so, the people in Thessalonica, in between 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians, they received another letter. And this other letter was supposedly from Paul, contradicting the teachings of Paul. Okay? And they're all confused. What's going on here, you know? And so Paul is writing 2 Thessalonians here to counteract the second letter that's in between the two that we have in the Bible here, because it was written by somebody inspired by the devil, right? Trying to deceive people. And so he says this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Now, brethren, concerning the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to Him, we ask you, so we talk about the second coming, not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as though the day of Christ had come. So they had got a letter written by somebody, false prophet, if you want to say, oh, the second coming has already taken place, and you missed out. Sorry. And they're like, what? What's going on? You know, what do you mean the second coming has already taken place? And so that's why he's writing 2 Thessalonians, to counteract that false letter. And he says to them, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day, talking about the second coming, will not come unless the falling away comes first and the man of sin is revealed. That's the falling away, right? What does he call the papacy? Because the word papacy hasn't been invented yet, right?
Mystery of lawlessness.
He calls him the man of sin, the son of perdition. Who else is called the son of perdition?
Satan.
Judas. What? Look at the characteristic of Judas. He was seen by the other disciples as he's the vice president. You know.
He's the treasurer.
Yeah, he was a treasurer. He was intelligent. He was educated. You know, they're fishermen. He's looking at him saying, you know, I'm glad we got him on our team, right? Well, they eventually found out what his character was like, and he was stealing from the treasury, and he, you know, of course, he betrayed Christ. So he's called a son of perdition in the Bible because he acted like he was Christian. He acted like he was on the side of Jesus, but in reality, he was trying to follow his own way, right? It's the same thing with the papacy. They look like they're a Christian organization. They look like they're a Christian entity, but they're really following their own way. It is deceiving people. That's why when you see this idea of perdition here in the book of Revelation, you know it's talking about the papacy. Because it's referred to here in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And so when we see this verse 11 of Revelation chapter 17, the beast that was and is not is himself also the eighth, right here, and is of the seven and is going to perdition. So it's the papacy revived is the eighth.
Pastor, is
And
that
that's
where
what
they
we
got,
see today.
is that where they got the word purgatory? Is it a takeoff from perdition?
I don't think so. Purgatory is more of a place where you go to work off your sins so you can get into heaven. Perdition is a place, you know, is you're not going to come back from it. Right? So I haven't done the etymology on it to know for sure, but that's my take on it. Okay. So any questions about, this is Revelation chapter 17. Essentially, we're reading verses 9 to 11, right? Scott?
So going back to my original question, can we say then that the reason why this seven-headed beast shows up in these specifically different time periods like, looking for our Revelation 13 or Revelation 17, is because it has the characteristics of all of them?
It does,
Is that what
right,
you're saying?
exactly, exactly. No, notice these three here. This is the lion, the bear, and the leopard, right? Okay, some people say leopard angel, it looks like a leopard to me. Okay, so notice in Revelation chapter 13, what does it say there about the beast that's coming up out of the sea? The characteristics there in verse 2. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. So we see all three, but in reverse order, right? So Daniel is looking at it from the perspective of looking ahead to the future, and I think John's looking at the perspective of looking back in the past. And you notice something in Daniel 7, verse 12. This is pretty cool, Rachel. You ready? Okay. Watch what it says in Daniel 7:12. I mean, if we would link Revelation 13:2 with Daniel 7:12, I think it would clear things up when people try to interpret the book of Revelation. Notice what it says there. Somebody got it?
And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not?
7:12.
Oh, sorry, Pastor.
Yeah, that's 6 of them.
Okay,
You got it?
yep. As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time.
They show up again. They were defeated as empires in the ancient past. But notice in Revelation chapter 13, they show up again. Just like Daniel chapter 7 verse 12 said would happen. And they don't show up as the entity themselves. Notice it's a composite beast. They show up as characteristics of these three empires is found in the papacy. Look at Babylon. What do? They believed in worshiping the sun. What did the papacy do? We're going to pick Sunday as the day of worship instead of the Sabbath. All right? What about the Persians? They believed that whenever the king gave a command, it was infallible. Could not be reversed. What does the papacy say? Ex cathedra, whenever the Pope speaks ex cathedra, it's infallible. Right? You see how the characteristics of these empires in the past shows up in the entity that we call the papacy today. What about Greece? What do they believe? Oh, the soul's immortal. When you die, your soul's released from the body. Right? What does the papacy teach? The soul's immortal, and you can speak to people who have died, saints who have died in the past, are up in heaven, and they maybe can go in and find a way to talk to Jesus for you. You know, almost like an intercessor. You see how their characteristics of these show up again in the papacy, just like the Bible predicted would happen, brother.
So in those Protestant churches, or claiming to be Protestant churches, that believe in this soul business going up to heaven, either consciously or unconsciously, they're believing or following the Catholic Church.
Right.
Drinking the wine.
Right. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go back. Now we still haven't covered the horns, have we? Okay. Well, so watch this. In Revelation chapter 17, verse 3, it mentions 10 horns, right? 7 heads and 10 horns, okay? Well, these aren't the same horns from Daniel chapter 7. Those were empires in the past, 7 of which now have grown into some of the countries of Europe today. This is a little different. Notice what it says here about these 10 horns. It says, the 10 horns in verse 12 of Revelation chapter 17, which you saw, are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet. Right? So here we are. That he's here in the vision. The timing of the vision, he's here in Revelation chapter 17. And he says, these 10 kings have not appeared yet. So these 10 kings are in the future from us today. Okay? Now, you can Google this. It's a coin that was minted that shows the world divided up into 10 areas. I don't know if you want to say empires or countries or, but 10 areas, that this coin has been minted to show that they're talking about this idea of the world being divided up into 10 areas. And so the Bible appears, this is my speculation, so it's not worth much. But if you notice, it says that these 10 horns are 10 kings. They only appear for a short period of time. It says for 1 hour. And it's future, right? It's happening sometime after the 8th head is revived. And the 8th head's been revived, right? We're there. So it's sometime, the time that we live in, right? It's in the very near future from our time. I don't know when. I don't know exactly what it looks like. Tina.
Well, I mean, the fact that it says they're 1 hour with the beast, would it be like when the Sunday law and everybody's,
It could be.
That's kind of what I was thinking, like maybe since it's such a short amount of time, would it be when they're like, okay, go get them, everybody.
Yeah. But
That's what it's gonna be. They're gonna be led by the Catholic Church.
it says they are of one mind, and they give their power and authority to the beast. That's the papacy. They will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. So, it's during a time whenever the world is persecuting Bible-believing Christians. And so, the 10 horns could be something that's taking place during the 7 last plagues. It gives me that impression. Because in Revelation chapter 16, we read about the 7 last plagues. It ends talking about Babylon being destroyed. But then it goes into Revelation chapter 17 about giving us characteristics of Babylon is. And so the 10, it reminds me of maybe taking place during the 7 last plagues. And the 7 last plagues take place after the close of probation. Well, we haven't got there yet.
And also, this is they're saying that they will receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. If that's prophetic time, that's about 2 weeks. So it's a short period of time.
It's a short period of time. So
Yeah.
it makes sense during the 7 last
Yeah.
plagues. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Did you say that we had literal Babylon falling on some, but there will be this, for lack of a better word, spiritual Babylon, like
Right.
confusion. So
Right.
everything will become
Right.
clear.
Yeah, and that happened here. Okay? It happened for the development of the papacy. The teachings of the pagan teachings of these 3 entities show up in the papacy. That's why it's an amalgamation, composite beast in Revelation chapter 13. It says it's made up of these 3, but pieces of those 3. You see that?
That makes sense.
Right, so that's when this was developed. The papacy was developed with these pagan teachings from those entities in the past.
So that brought the confusion in. So did I understand you just saying that in times when the peace for that 1 hour, it's when confusion will be cleared up and people will have made their choice one way or the other?
Yeah, I think before then, people would have made their choice, yeah. Right, before the close of probation.
The first one, the second was infallibility, and then the soul is immortal. But what was Babylon? The teaching?
Sunday sacredness,
Sunday.
yeah.
It's like the devil had plans for each one, and he took all of those plans and put them together.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost, the devil, here he's testing it here, he's testing it here, he's testing it here. Now he says, okay, these work. Wham! He puts them together into this entity. Looks like it's Christian.
Compiles it.
Yeah. First he tried to stamp out the church, and that didn't work. Then he said, this is Satan, talking or thinking, well, I can't stamp out the church. Why don't I invent my own Christian-like church and deceive people? And that's why the papacy then, he took the teachings of paganism from these entities, combine them into the papacy.
What was the bear?
Infallibility. Right. You remember, in Daniel, we have that story of the Persian king made a decree that nobody could worship or pray to any other god but him, right? Daniel chapter 5.
So I am,
Is that it? Let's see.
no.
No, Daniel chapter 6.
Six.
Essentially, we have the governors, the administrators, the satraps, the counselors, the advisors. They consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree. And so these people were jealous of Daniel's authority over this Persian king, right? Actually, this particular king at that time,
Like Daniel, loved Daniel.
yeah, he really did. He was 62 years old. He was actually a Mede. He was Darius the Mede, right? But they were combined together as the Medes and the Persians at this time. And so they were jealous of Daniel and wanted to get rid of Daniel. That's why they had this decree. They go to the king, Darius at the time, and the Bible tells us in Daniel 5:30 that he's 62 years old, so he's close. You know, that's pretty old for back then. You know, not for today, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah. But the 60 is the new 40, is that what it is? Okay. Anyway.
Pastor, I think it's interesting that they said, you know, Daniel, the Judean prisoner.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they tried to knock him
Oh,
out.
yeah, exactly. So they make this decree, and then they go to the king, and they convince the king, oh, king, you're so wonderful, you know. You ought to have people just pray to you for 30 days. And then, of course, the king signs it, right? And Daniel goes, he opens his windows, and he's praying to God 3 times a day. He did this, and they knew he would do this. And then, so they capture Daniel, and they come back to the king and say, have you not signed a decree that everyone who petitions any god or man within 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions? And the king answered and said, this thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which does not alter. Right? Infallibility. Okay? So they answered and said, that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king. And when he heard that, he understood that he was tricked. And he worked all day trying to convince him to let him change his mind about the decree.
Looking for a way out.
He was trying to look for a way out. And they said, no, no. And the king said, okay, you know, you're right. This decree's made. It's infallible, and we can't change it. And so they threw him in the lion's den. Of course, nothing happened. Right? God protected him.
So
Then his enemies got thrown into the lion's den.
And their families.
Yeah.
they said before they touched
They're in their
the ground,
house.
they were tearing them apart.
Yeah. It
Pastor,
must
do you
have been pretty
see
hungry.
a similarity here between Haman deceived Ahasuerus, had him sign this, and
That's right.
they deceived him.
History repeats itself.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to study history. And, you know, it repeats itself. It's so true. So, the 10 horns are sometime in the future is the bottom line. And we see that the papacy and the revival of the papacy has the characteristics and teachings of these ancient empires, these pagan people. Right?
Just a question about that 1929 Italy Lateran Treaty. Is that somewhere in there? Because there was some helping there
Yeah.
to establish, like a partial
Right.
healing, right?
Some newspapers recognized, you know, because we were probably more of a Christian country back then, recognized what was taking place, and some newspapers even said the deadly wound was being healed.
Wow.
You know. So they recognized that was happening. Right?
That wouldn't necessarily be a head, right?
You know, the papacy doesn't disagree that they're the whore of Babylon chapter 17, right? You know that, right? This is a coin minted by the Pope in 1825. And he's got the Pope on one side, and got the whore of Babylon, chapter 7, of Babylon, the whore, of Revelation 17 on the other side.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can Google that.
Talk about dumb.
Yeah.
So the little whore is in the back of the book?
Yeah, doesn't, you see how it shows a woman with a golden cup?
Yeah, she's
Right.
in the back.
Yeah, she's in the back of the coin. That they meant it.
Isn't that sun rays coming out of her?
That's exactly.
What would be Google to find?
Pope Leo the 12th medal. He had it minted in 1825. Pope Leo the 12th medal.
You said 18.
1825, right?
They were great.
Oh yeah. It's brazen, right? It's just like when you read the catechism, they say, "Oh, we changed the day," right? Or you read the book called Rome's Challenge, and they to Protestants, why do you keep Sunday holy and not the other teachings of the Catholic Church when there's no biblical authority for a Sunday sacrament?
They even call transference of Sunday sacredness their mark of authority.
Their mark of ecclesiastical authority. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they call it.
Pastor, I don't understand. If they understand history, they know the Bible. How come they don't read the end? I mean,
It's
Well, even
just.
the devil
if you
knows
read
the
the
end, and he still does what he does.
But have you noticed? It's look at socialism. Socialism has never ever helped the middle class. It's always hurt the middle class. And every time it's been tried, it's always hurt. But you still have people that promote socialism, right? It's almost like, oh, well, we're not going to make the same mistakes they made, right?
the fact
You
that
can see the eye and the triangle up there at the top. too.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, what's those?
Yeah, New York, no.
Exactly.
What else happened in 1929? Was there a big incident?
Stock market crash.
Yes, was there, I don't know, was there some relationship? It's just interesting.
Yeah. I'm not real sure.
Neither am I, I
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
realized that the incidents of those two events.
Right. You had the Lateran Treaty being signed, and then you had a worldwide. It was a worldwide depression. Yeah, exactly.
So going back to the Sunday sacredness by Babylon,
Yes.
how is that?
they worship
They-
the sun.
Okay, look at Ezekiel. Chapter 8. Now, this is after Babylon has conquered Jerusalem, Judah, right? So this is after 605 BC. Okay? And so Ezekiel, of course, was a prophet of God at the same time as Daniel and Jeremiah. And notice, okay, this is pretty cool. If I could take a few minutes over, do I have permission to go past the 7? And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, on the 5th day of the month. So we're almost 666 here. Have you noticed that? Yeah.
8.
The house of the elders of Judah sitting before me, that the hand of the Lord God fell upon me. So he's in captivity, not actually inside the city of Babylon. That's where Daniel was located, right? He's on the outskirts of the city of Babylon, okay? And the elders of Judah who were taken into captivity are there with him. They recognize Ezekiel as a prophet, right? And so he has a vision. I looked, and there was likeness like the appearance of fire and the appearance of his waist, downward fire from his waist and upward like the appearance of brightness like the color of amber. Where have we seen that before? Revelation chapter 1. He stretched out the form of a hand and took me by a lock of my hair, and the Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven and brought me in visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the north gate of the inner court, is at the temple, where the seed of the image of jealousy, which provokes to jealousy. So, what God has done, He's given Ezekiel a vision of what's taking place back in Jerusalem. They haven't been destroyed yet. The temple hasn't been destroyed yet, right? And he's given a vision of what God's people are doing. They've accepted the worship of Babylon, right? They've adopted the pagan worship of Babylon. And so it starts off with images. Does the Catholic Church have images? Oh yeah, okay. If you notice, Catholic Church got rid of the second
Second.
commandment. It says,
Image.
in their catechism, and split the temple. Okay? I'm really running out of time here. I wanted to go through this in detail to show you the characteristics of Babylon here in the Catholic Church. All right? So he's being shown different parts of the temple back in Jerusalem and how God's professed people have now bought into the paganism of Babylon. Just like today, God's professed people, Protestantism, has bought into the paganism of the papacy. Sunday sacredness, immortality of the soul. It's the same thing being repeated again. All right? So when you read on, if you notice, I'm now skipping way ahead. Verse 16. So he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. You know, the more inside you go, the holier it's supposed to be, right? And there at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east. Remember how the temple was set up? You always worship toward the west with the sun in your back. Now they've turned around and worship toward the east. And they were worshiping the sun toward the east. They adopted Babylonian ideology and pagan worship. You see, it's the same thing here. The devil takes this Sunday sacredness, infallibility, immortality of the soul, and he puts them into one entity now called the papacy. And the Bible teaches us in Revelation chapter 17, any church that has fallen away from God and adopted these teachings is part of Babylon.
It's the daughters.
Right. So we'll have to pick it up there, I think, next time.
Hence the angels must this thing come out of that.
That's exactly right. Father in heaven, we thank you for these great truths from the book of Revelation, the Word of God. Help us share with others and help us be faithful. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.
Amen.